Alright, guys. I've been a bit busy and I've not been able to properly record a show for you for this week. But what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd give you one of the recent Patreon episodes because I already sort of teased this in my Instagram channel and talked about it in there and put it on Twitter a little bit. So I figured I might as well just put the whole episode out publicly because I quite enjoyed this idea. So these are called daily updates. They're not daily. They used to be years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago or so they were. Now they're not. They're just every now and then when I have an idea and I just follow it through and then get it out my head to get it out my system. I've just been busy. I've been making stuff and getting ready for a festival I was taking part in. So we'll be back to normal next week. Another Here's How. I didn't want to give you 3 Here's Hows in a week either. So I hope you enjoy this. This is called Daily Update 325. Quick Flask in the Pan. Hopefully you like it. I enjoyed it. And if you want more of this, have a look at my Patreon. I'll pop the link below. You can join it for £3 a month and get, I don't know, there's got to be about 400 episodes on there that you can't hear anywhere else. So if you've already gotten through all of these, give that a look. If you've gotten through all of these, though, and you want something free, listen to Truth Seeking, my other podcast. I like the idea that, those people that try and tell young people. You see a lot of it on things like on Joe or JOE, whatever it's called, that very I don't know, it sort of tastes like propaganda, but I don't think it actually is. But if it can't, I don't know, maybe it's just where I get shown. But you always get older people being like, well, if they stop buying so many cups of coffee, you'd be able to buy a 7-bedroom house and have their own land and rent out that land like we did. Do you know what I mean? Like them sort of people. Well, I like the idea that, but you could have a proper propaganda push of don't buy a coffee when you're out. Like really pushing for that idea of young people to not pay for coffee, not pay for tea, to cripple the cafes and small businesses like cafes, because realistically that's all that is. When they're saying don't buy a coffee when you're out and about, the big brands, the big branded franchised coffee shops, they'll survive that. The ones that won't survive are your greasy spoons that are run by a husband and wife, or the one that she's inherited it from a dead granddad. Do you know what I mean? And because think of you're not spending much money really to run a cafe. Maybe business expenses like cups, takeaway cups, maybe bit of food in, bit of water rates, maybe tea bags, coffee granules, sugar packets, them little wooden stirrers as well. Maybe a bit of, cleaning the knives and forks, cleaning the teaspoons, stuff to clean the tables with, wet wipes, aprons, maybe a bit of lingerie as well, because you've got to imagine most of these women that work in cafes are having it off with the guy that cooks the bacon in the back room, aren't you? Because, you'd think they were. The way they talk to each other when you go in the cafe and they're always like, you cheeky bastard and all this. She's definitely fucking putting out for that guy who's cooking the bacon. Just as, but as I'm getting off the point here, they've got business expenses, do you know what I mean? They pay money for stuff. And then if you're convincing loads of young people to not buy stuff from cafes and that, they're going to be crippled, them businesses then. Absolutely fucking destroyed. And then, who gets to swoop in, mate? Fucking charity shops. They're opening up then, or empty, so they can destroy the high street and then they can fucking more stuff on the internet, do you know what I mean? Anyway, I like the idea that the whole point of that is that they're trying to convince young people to buy flasks, and they're just trying to get them to take a flask everywhere they go, on the way to work, on the way to the shops, walking round the shops, when they're meeting their friends. Just think about this, a lovely visual. Just a load of lads sat on some benches or on the flower beds in a shopping centre, fag on the go, each of them. They've got a fucking, maybe they've got a bag of bud amongst them, but they've all got their own little flasks. It's just a lovely visual, all cig in the mouth. Fucking, I'm pretending to hold a cig in my mouth, that's why I'm talking weird. Cig in the mouth, pour in a flask, sealing that up, giving it a little spin, because if only pour, I'll take the cig out, my fake cig out my mouth. Taking the, giving it a little spin, half of a cup, so it gives it a bit of a stir, chinging it together, like, ding, like that. and they drink the flasks. Lovely. That'd be really nice to see. Imagine. And then as they're getting a bit older, they start to get to what, like 16 or something. They've stuck a bit of their dad's whiskey out. Irish coffee, boys. Do you know what I mean? Before school, or after college. That, think about underage drinking then. How sneaky it'll become without them having to, try and hide a can of lager. They've just got a flask. Coppers lining you up outside the pound shop. Come here. Let me sniff your coffee. Nescafe sound. Ooh, Kenko. Sealing it back up. Taking it off the next guy. Oh. You've put a bit of bells in there, lad. Pour that down the drain. I'm not going to pour it down the drain. And you, Kenko, lad, you've got more money than sense. Give him half your coffee. Do you know what I mean? Just as a... Anyway, they'd have to campaign for it, innit? Like, you'd have to, proper campaigning for Flask propaganda. So you'd have, pictures of people in war clothes, either in camouflage gear or war-torn clothes. Would you call it war-torn clothes? I know you can come from a war-torn country, but you must be able to have war-torn clothes torn by war. But it's just a thick zip-up vest is what I'm thinking. Where it looks like you'd survive, when you're walking your rat on the minefields and your rat blows up. You'd survive the shrapnel of the rat coming at your chest. A flak jacket, but covered in carabiners, so you can hang your flask off it. You can hang all your mugs, your little metal mugs off of it like you're going fishing. Obviously, it's a flask jacket. That's what I'm getting at. And they could introduce it as a skin on Fortnite and that. Or, I mean, if you then, I suppose, though, then you could campaign against it, couldn't you? So all the coffee companies, because they're the ones with the money, really. So they would then campaign to have it put in, but it adds either makes your hitbox a little bit bigger, a mug bigger, or it gives a sort of noise whilst you're running. So it sounds like all the metal mugs clanging off themselves. But I just thought that was a nice, because I can imagine it on posters, like the, I think, was it supposed to be a Russian style soldier in Denver Airport, the Denver International Airport mural, like that sort of gas mask and stuff, but with loads of flasks attached to his vest. But then you're going to have to change language as well. I thought about this. You'd have to change the use of language. You can't have people who, like the people that steal your shoes with a knife. You can't be calling them muggers anymore. Muggers have to become a good thing because they're people that are carrying mugs around to save the environment, because that's one way that they'd really push this. Have a flask and save the trees. It fucking doesn't make any sense at all. Stop making the mugs out of, stop putting plastic lining in the mugs, in the plastic, in the paper cups. Just stop doing that. And then you can recycle the paper cups, make it a harder pressed paper or something. I don't know. Make it so you eat it. That's one of the ways you could save the environment. Instead of having plastic cups, just make it edible. You eat it, it's actually like chewable coffee, chewable tea, bottle of water and some chewable tea or chewable coffee. Or you just drop them in and then you mix it up, and then you could make it so it's an exothermic reaction when these chewable coffee tablets go into a cold bottle of water, causes it to heat the water up and taste of coffee. That would be the really good way of saving the environment, but I imagine producing those tablets would cause lots of fucking environmental issues. Oh, it's really expelling a lot of powder into the local seas. It's really making that smog, that tea smog. Do you know what I mean? Fucking, they'd find something to say no. But yeah, the muggers wouldn't be a bad person anymore, innit? Muggers would have to be a good thing. You'd have to have muggers. You'd have to have. They'd probably bring back more sort of East End terms like me old China. That'd be good. You wouldn't be able to have all of the anti-China stuff online either now. Where people online are always saying, "Oh, films are bad now because of China." They'd have to. It'd be like, "Oh, China's a good thing because we use China to drink our tea from." Because everyone would have a little China cup and saucer, do you know what I mean, that attached to the flask jacket. There'd be community hubs as well. So all the people that like to piss money up the wall and start community-driven projects, CICs and that, they could start little mug cleaning hubs, and like a van that drives around like an ice cream van, but it's just like Dorothy with a fucking washing up bowl and marigolds. She gives you mug a scrub and moves on. and or you can take a mug and leave a mug, like the penny pot in posh places in where they have petrol stations and that, where you can be like, ooh, bloody hell, £15. Oh, I'll take a penny. There you go, £15 and a penny, thank you. Do you know, like that sort of thing. But you could have even like the money making side of the world, though, the normal people. They could make a pretty profitable business. To be honest, it could fucking really take off, because you'd just start a little timed sync thing. Think about the water fountains that we had in school, where you walk past it and it smells like dog shit, and you think, ah, fucking hell, and you're convinced that someone's probably just, like, instead of pressing the button and drinking the water out of it, they've probably put the nostril to the bit where the water comes out of, and then spat out the nostril into the tube of the water fountain. Because you do think that that's what everyone's done to water fountains, or you think that someone's like spat a greenie into their hand and then forced it up into the tube with a like with the cotton buds you carry around in your pocket for getting things into tiny holes with you, like when you've pulled the cotton off and you just use the stick. That's probably why they banned the plastic sticks as well, because they wanted to be able to make more people use the water fountains, potentially to make people more ill. So if you've got an absorbent cotton bud stick, that's going to absorb the greenie and the bacteria in it, so it makes that a lot harder. But if you had this portable sink, or either a portable sink business, you have a van, and it's not a CIC business, it's whatever they stands for, the community thing. It's just a van that gets about, like the guy that used to rent out videos to people's houses, like on council estates and that when we were kids. Instead of that, it's just a guy with a sink, or instead of the water fountains, or instead of a vending machine, mate, you pop your mug in. It cleans it for you, steam cleans it, or it gives you access to the water and a brush. You clean it, rinse it off, pour it away, done. You put 50p in each time, or whatever the equivalent is for when you put. Well, then again, though, the water at a petrol station's free in it for cleaning and filling up the windows with the window wash. So you'd have to really compete with that. So you'd have to make sure you can guarantee it's cleaner water, sterilised water. Maybe you also, within that 50p, it gives you access to boiling hot water, one of them really dangerous hot taps, and then you can fill your flask back up with that for 50p as well. Because that there, or a quid maybe, 50p for a rinse, a quid for a rinse and refill. And and there's a little something to dry it off with. Obviously not a tea towel, that'd be rank. And again, you'd have to trust that people haven't ran it down their arse crack, or rubbed it on the fannies, or like shoved a bit of it under the foreskin or something like that, wouldn't you? So a bit fucking tricky to get around. You'd have to have some form of air blaster, which maybe then that could be included in the 50p. I think that'd probably be fair to include that within that. And you're going to get cafes as well trying to cash in on this with a fill your flask service, like little posters outside, and maybe even campaigning against it, all showing pictures of flasks and showing loads of flasks in a pile. Did you buy into the trend of buying a flask? More fool you. Forgot your flask? Don't worry, we'll still serve you a coffee. All that sort of shite. They'd do it. They would definitely do it. Then you could see, I'm referring to some notes now at this point here, because I've been making so many notes about this through the day, just thinking about it all day, as you can probably tell, guys. And then you could have the daft coffees that you get with they put sprinkles on it, and they're like, this is a macchiato, and it's got whipped cream and chocolate sprinkles, cappuccino, but with a dusting of hot chocolate powder over the top to make it seem posh and make your teeth look a little bit darker after you've had your coffee. That sort of stuff. And they're showing that, like, that in a flask, and then because that would be the advert. They have a flask, coffee, spray the whipped cream in, and then as they seal the lid, all the whipped cream just spits everywhere and pisses down the side and makes the whole thing all sticky. And they're like, we don't have that problem. Have a takeaway cup. Like a good slogan. A good slogan, though, for one of these cafes, where if they're going to do refills, would be, we fill your coffee in a flask. That is me clicking my fingers and making a gun symbol with my hand. We fill your coffee quick as a flask. That sort of thing. Because, and in the future as well, because this is obviously going to be in the future, it's not something that could be implemented right now. We'd have, like strobe lighting around the click of the fingers and the gun point. We'd have to have strobe lighting, but because it is the future, we could have that to, like, for Flash and Flask, because it's You get the flash of light and the word Flask on the screen, and you hear the word Flask. So that's probably really good for programming someone's brain as well into thinking, I'll go there to fill my flask. I won't use the 50p water fountain. I'll go there and pay £3.60 for my flask to be refilled with really expensive coffee that tastes like shit, but we're told it tastes like shit because it's better. Because a clever hot drink marketing board might discover as well, or they might even pay to have, like the seizures that get caused by strobe lights. Maybe they can negate that by using a certain type of flash or a certain pocket of the light spectrum on that flash on the screen or on the billboards and stuff, or just in the shop windows. They could just employ someone to stand there with like a couple 50 million candles, torches, lumen torches in the windows, shouting it at the glass. Refill your mug in a quick of a flask. Like that, just like flashing torches on and off, Morse code, all these pilots coming in and then veering, banking off because they think they're coming towards a runway. And, maybe they could just pay some scientists to, like, quote, discover that the new, like, Flasky Gotigo, or the Mug di Offiato, have an ingredient in it that means you can look at strobe lights now if you've had one of these specially filled flask coffees, and then you don't get the adverse effects of long-term health conditions of staring at strobe lights. Because it's the future, innit? We're speculating. So why not? That'd be a hell of an angle if they could say, look, we've patented something that stops you from having a seizure if you look at the strobe lights in our specific advert. You too could possibly watch that Porygon episode of Pokemon if you drink your coffee out of our flasks, our refilled water flasks, you know what I mean? Because it's business. That's at the end of the day, it's just business, isn't it? Loads more like marketing opportunities as well with novelty and nostalgia wanking as well, like merch wise. You could have a voiceover guy who just like Alf pouring filling a mug up and out of his flask, and some guy just goes, or filling up his flask maybe, or E.T. could be doing it. They don't have to be aliens. Michael Jordan. Who else could be doing it? An AI representation or hologram of Tupac, Michael Jackson. I mean, a hell of a one to go for. If you really wanted online marketing, you could pretend that someone else has done it and be like offended by the fact that people are doing it, but it'd really get the idea and the business out there. Jared from Subway, an AI generated Jared from Subway filling up his flask, and a voiceover going, "That's a deep cup." Do you know what I mean? Instead of "that's a deep cut," because you're like, oh fucking hell, this is I know him and he's filling his flask. Fucking, oh my god, Ash from Pokemon's filling his flask up. I'm gonna fill my flask up too. Peppa Pig filling it up. The woman from the cafe that sucks off the chef, she's there just filling up her flask, wiping a little bit of cum from the side of her mouth. That's a deep cup. Like the voiceover says that. Everyone watching it goes, fuck me, that's Shelley from the cafe. She's doing this. She could have AI generated local celebrities. Do you know what I mean? Like people everybody knows. The postman doing it, and it's your postman because your camera that you've put on your door for some reason so you can film the guests to your house. I still don't understand the idea of like ring cams and that, but you film your guests coming into your house so that then maybe your smart TV that links up to your smart doorbell could then put these people that you know and trust in adverts, because you're more likely to buy from your postman than an actor pretending to be a postman. Does that make sense? Because you could just film loads of these adverts of a guy in a morph suit, and then you could even have morph in there as well if you could get the rights to it. I mean, obviously one of the issues these are going to have is getting the rights to all these characters, because at the end of the day, this is just an idea for propaganda to make people use more flasks. But that's something for them to struggle with, not for us. And there's an even riskier marketing or propaganda strategy as well, to try and put people off the idea of using flasks, or maybe using cups, like using the takeaway cups, because you've got all of that. One of the reasons with the cups, what they could do is like to prove that. See, there's loads of ideas here. I'm getting carried away. Look how long this is, mate. This is the first daily update I've done in a while. This is nearly 20 minutes. So do you remember mass aggregation? We covered it in truth seeking. So mass aggregation is loads of the same type of plastic aggregating, collecting in the oceans and forming islands. So you just have all different branded, like there's a McDonald's island, Starbucks, Cafe Nero, Costa Island, do you know what I mean? All of these. And the Cups logos, you could have that in the propaganda, and then showing that flasks sink. You're like, not a problem. Loads of hermit crabs getting about in flasks. Do you know what I mean? Like, that'd be fine in this weird world that we're creating here. But you could then have the cups. Instead of that, just have the reusable cups. And you say, your idea of you carrying your own cup around, you should be using disposable ones that we can burn, that don't end up in the oceans. If you're using a reusable cup, that's you in CP. And they stare down the camera, insinuating that because you're using a cup, you're somehow heavily involved within child pornography. Just as really proper nasty marketing and proper nasty propaganda to get people back into using disposable cups again and away from the flaskers, just to stop the flaskers. Because the flaskers are going to be the trouble then. Because then how do you compete with that? In a capitalist sense, in a money-making world, how do you compete with everyone coming out with their own flask? Because after that, they're already carrying a flask. They've got a backpack. If they've got a backpack, they're getting a lunchbox, mate. And if they've not got a lunchbox, they've at least got a sandwich in that bag. And then you could really cripple all the locally owned businesses, because then no one's even buying a sandwich or a cake. Do you know what I mean? I think that'd probably be you. Obviously, insinuating you putting the U into CP, putting you in CP. That would be the nail in the coffin, I think, of the flask industry. And I don't know why I've found it necessary to build this empire and then talk about all the pros and cons and then destroy this empire, but that's what we've done. The birth and death of a flask world, I suppose. This was fun. I really liked this. I really enjoyed this one. They're not all 20 minutes. Some of them are 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes. There's no fucking rules to it, as you can imagine. If you enjoyed it, though, go and have a look on Patreon. 7-day free trial on there, so you can get through loads of them in 7 days. You get access to me books as downloads as well, included in that. A couple of discount codes here and there for the website. And you'll get a message to tell you when each wrap pencil case is going to be made available. Plus, it gives the podcast, it makes the podcast earn a little bit of money, which means I can feel more comfortable putting a bit more time into them, if you like. What else? There's like I say, there's Truth Seeking. Have a listen to that. And if you don't mind, leave a 5-star rating, leave a comment, leave a review for the show. It helps spread it to people that listen to other podcasts and songs that you listen to, especially on Spotify and Apple. So if you can do that, that'd be mint. Anyway, I'll fucking see you in a bit, mate.